The MLS bracket is finally set for the playoffs. Who do you think is going to win MLS Cup? Tell me down below and also join my MLS bracket challenge on the MLS website. The link is in the description. So let's just jump right into it. Let's make the predictions. I'm not 100% sure who I want yet to win it all, but I think we all know who is. So I'm going to be as realistic as I can in this video. So we are going to start there in the Western Conference. We have LAFC versus Vancouver Whitecaps. The Whitecaps put on a great display against the Portland Timbers, but was it because of all the stuff going on in the locker room? Or are Vancouver actually that good? Before that, they were not looking good leading into the playoffs. LAFC, though, right at the end of the season, capture and on decision day, captured the number one spot. LAFC are a very good side. And I think that they move on in this matchup. Vancouver, I think that they're just too inconsistent right now. And yes, they are going in with a lot of confidence against LAFC, but I think LAFC move on in the best of three. So next there in the West, we have Seattle Sounders versus Houston Dynamo. Seattle Sounders, one of the best defenses in the league. Houston, inconsistent, but so has Seattle. I think Seattle has been very inconsistent this season too. At times, and the same with the Houston Dynamo. I think they have had an exceptional season, but I'm going to have to go with the team that has the home field advantage in this one, and I think that Seattle Sounders will move on in this matchup. Then that takes us to Real Salt Lake and Minnesota United. Minnesota United have had a phenomenal season compared to what we are used to seeing from them, and I'm very excited for them to be here in the playoffs. But they're up against Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake have played very well this season. Yes, they went through one spell where they were just drawing and losing a handful of games, but they have looked fairly well this season. One of the best teams in the league, you could argue. Not the best, but one of the best. And I think that Minnesota will give them a run for their money and maybe even force a game three in this round of three. But I think that RSL move on in this matchup. And then finally, there for the West for this best of three series, we have LA Galaxy versus Colorado Rapids. Colorado have been inconsistent to me. I just don't feel they have what it takes, and then especially against a very good LA Galaxy. Yes, they are heartbroken that they lost that first seed, and I would be too. That that is heartbreaking with Houston scoring right at the end of the match to give LA that boost up, LAFC that boost up to number one. Hopefully that doesn't affect the Galaxy because I think they have a really good side, and I hope that they show up and show out on this one. Colorado might force them to play in a game three, but I just think that the Galaxy will get it done back at home if they have to play in that match three. So I think that I'm going to have to go with LA Galaxy here to move on to the conference semifinals. Now we head over to the East. We have Inter Miami versus Atlanta United. You don't know how much I want to say Atlanta win this, but we know how good Miami is and how poor Atlanta have looked all season. Very inconsistent, just scraping by. I'm very happy to be here as an Atlanta fan. I just don't see us moving on from this. I would love an upset. Atlanta, you can prove me wrong all day, but I actually think Miami win this in two matches. Now for Orlando versus Charlotte. This one is, I think, one of the most even matchups in the best of three series. Orlando look good at home, Charlotte look good at home, but also Orlando can give up on the road, on at home though. They lost to Atlanta at home in decision day. I think this one is going to go to a game three, and I think this is the first time I'm going to have to pick the team that doesn't have the home field advantage. I'm going to say that Charlotte does. I think Orlando have had a great second half of the season, and they should have done a lot better. And I think that Orlando could really give Inter Miami a run for their money, but I don't know. I just have a gut feeling, and that this is what this pick is. And we know that we're going to see some kind of upset, and I think this might be it. I think that Charlotte move on over Orlando City. Now, the second best matchup in the best of three, I think, is this FC Cincinnati versus NYCFC matchup. Cincinnati, they're good, but if Acosta's not on, they're not winning. If he's not playing well, they're not playing well. And I think that they rely too heavily on Acosta. NYCFC have looked really good this season. They've had ups and downs, but I think that's just MLS. The inconsistency is just an MLS thing. I think that I'm going to have to go with another upset here in the East. I think that NYCFC could go and beat Cincinnati on the road in that first match. And then NYCFC, that if they win at home the second match, they move on. I want to say that NYCFC do it, but I think that FC Cincinnati is going to figure out a way, and I think that they scrape by, and I think that this one will go to a match day 3, but I have to say FC Cincinnati moves on. And then last but not least, for the best of 3 series, we have Columbus Crew versus the New York Red Bulls. If this was at the beginning of the season, I think I could say that the Red Bulls would give them a run for their money. But the Red Bulls have been terrible in this second half of the season after Leagues Cup. They just have not done well, and I don't think that they can do it. They definitely won't win that first match at Lower.com Field, and then I actually think that Columbus could sweep them, and I think that that's going to be my prediction here, and I think that the Columbus Crew move on over the Red Bulls. Now we move on to the conference semifinals, LAFC versus Seattle Sounders. This is a good matchup. This is a really, really good matchup. It's a one and done. So it's win or go home from here on out. We're at LAFC. Seattle has to travel. I don't feel like Seattle has been the best at traveling. And also, they do have one of the best defenses. So I think it might be a low scoring match, maybe even go to penalty kicks. But I have to say that LAFC move on in this matchup. And then that takes us to Real Salt Lake versus LA Galaxy. This will be in LA for the Galaxy at home. Real Salt Lake, really good team. Galaxy, really good team. Both of these teams have been very surprising to me this year, just because I think they were just both like mediocre last year. The Galaxy weren't great last year. Real Salt Lake was still up, in the running, had a chance, and they've done even better this season, in my opinion. But I just don't see them going on the road and winning. I think that another win goes to the home team, and I think that the Galaxy move on over Real Salt Lake. Now, switching over to the East, we have Inter Miami versus Charlotte FC. Could be a good matchup, but I just don't know. Maybe if this was a best of 3, Charlotte could really give them a run for their money, but it's not. It's a win or go home situation, and they're playing in Miami. There's not much more to say. I think Inter Miami win this match, and they move on to the conference finals. And what kind of drama is this? This is fantastic drama. Hell is real in the conference semifinals. This would be awesome if it was conference finals, but it's conference semifinals, but still a fantastic matchup. Cincinnati would be traveling on the road to Lower.com Field. I think that because of this rivalry, this will be a very hard fought match if it does happen. And I would say most likely this game would be decided by penalty kicks. But I think that Columbus Crew, they have more talent than what FC Cincinnati. Like I said before, Cincinnati only play well when Acosta plays well, in my opinion. Yes, Oriana's good. Kelsey's good up top, but it's just if he's not doing well, the team's not doing well. With the Crew, they have a lot more players that they can rely on. Yes, Cucho is a massive part of that team, but I think that he has better surrounding players than what Acosta does. And with that being said, I think the Crew move on here to play Inter Miami. So now we are in the conference finals. LAFC versus LA Galaxy there in the West, an LA showdown. El Trafico for conference finals. What a match this would be. And this one's really hard for me to pick because both teams are very much even in this. And the same goes with the conference finals with Miami and Columbus Crew. I think Columbus could give them a run for their money. And I think that Columbus could maybe beat Miami, but we'll talk about that in a second. We're talking about El Trafico here in the conference finals. I'm so torn on this, but I just think that this would be, I think it would be really cool for the MLS Cup to be LA Galaxy versus Inter Miami. I really do, just because of how David Beckham is involved. And I think that that could be a thing that happens. But I think that LAFC are the better side than Galaxy. If LAFC is hitting on all cylinders and Galaxy are hitting on all cylinders, I would say that LAFC would win that match maybe 7 out of 10 times, and they're at home. So I have to say LAFC go on to play in the MLS Cup final. So then that takes us to Inter Miami versus Columbus Crew. I would love nothing more than Columbus traveling to Miami and ruining their run. I really would, because I think Columbus are a very, very good team. I would say that they're in the top three. And actually, I think, the three teams that are left as we're talking are the top three teams. LAFC, Inter Miami, Columbus Crew. Those are the three top teams in my opinion. Tell me down below what your thoughts are. Who are your top three teams in the league as of right now? But I hate to say it, but I think that with it being in Miami, I think if you were at lower.com field, I really think that Columbus Crew would win this. I really do. But with them being in Miami, I think that Messi and them being in front of that home crowd, I just think that there's no way that they are losing, and they would move on to the MLS Cup Finals. And that leaves us with LAFC versus Inter Miami. Do you think Miami would move this to, like, you know, Hard Rock Stadium? If they make it all the way to the Cup, do you think that they wouldn't, like, you would think that they would put it in a bigger stadium than what they have? Who knows? We'll see. Also, the tickets will be outrageous if Inter Miami make it to the MLS Cup. I'm trying to be realistic because of how teams are playing and how good they are. And I feel like I'm probably just like everyone else and who's making these videos. I think Inter Miami is going to win it. I think they are. I don't think that there's anybody. I think if anybody can stop them, it would be Columbus Crew. And that's the thing. There is a potential. I will say there is a potential. I think that the East have tougher teams than the West, even this season. Last season, it was very apparent. But like Columbus Crew having to play against FC Cincinnati, that's going to be a hard fought game. And that takes a toll on players. So when they go to play Miami, they might be a little bit tired, but I think that they would, they would be very aggressive with Miami. And so that's going to wear. So I think that this LAFC versus Inter Miami match might be closer than what we think, and could even go to penalty kicks. But I just think that Miami are going to get the job done, and they will lift the MLS Cup trophy at the end of the season. Don't want it to happen, but I think that is what is going to happen here for the MLS Cup playoffs. Again, tell me down below what your predictions are. Join the league. The description's in the link below. The link is in the description below. Please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you like the content. We have a whole bunch of live streams scheduled, so make sure you stop by, hang out with us, and we will see you for the next video.